Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're all doing well. In this lesson, we are going to talk about something called a business plan. Now, this is one of the more recent topics that have been included in your new syllabus. And a business plan is a written document. And a business plan is used by an entrepreneur. Now, you'll know an entrepreneur is someone who's taking the risk of starting a business, right? So, the moment an entrepreneur decides that I'm going ahead with it, that moment a business plan is required because a business plan will lay out exactly what is it that you're thinking of doing and what are the strategies that you're going to use in order to achieve them. But of course, when you start a business, it's not just sometimes one man army. It could be a business starting out with 100 people. So you need to know exactly what those 100 people are going to do, what their roles are in the organization, and what are the different functions in a business that will help it achieve the targets. So it's a written document containing the aims of a business and strategies and the plans on how they are going to go ahead and achieve them. Now, a business is a combination of many functions. For example, marketing is one of the functions where you try to convince your customers. Operations is one of them where you're trying to do the best through your production process. So, different functions must be streamlined and they must be defined within the business plan as to what is their role in the overall success of the business. Now we're going to talk about the contents of a typical business plan very soon, but I just wanted to highlight first the reasons for creating a business plan and the utility that it brings to a business, the purpose that it has. And first and foremost, as a business, when you're starting up, you are going to look for finance, and that may lead you to some investors and banks. They are definitely going to ask you for a business plan, and that is something you can show as a sign of potential successes. This is what we have in mind, this is what research tells us, and this is our expectation for success in the future. So it helps you to convince these lenders to give you the money that you so dearly need at the beginning. Additionally, a business plan can also be very useful before you even go into a launch. So you lay down everything on a piece of paper, you watch it with your eyes, you see it play out, and if all the things go well on paper, then if research is right, if your implementation is on point, then you should see the business plan go through smoothly. But if during the planning period, when you're laying it out in front of you, if there's something wrong, if you feel something might become a potential risk going forward, then you can make those adjustments in the plan before you go ahead and put the money down and launch the product or a business. So it is useful tool to visualize things perhaps on a piece of paper and then let it transform into the actual business. And finally, a business plan, although it is made at the beginning of a business, of course, but it is not a document that is put away forever. It is a live document, meaning that every time business changes its strategies, they maybe adds another function to it, they will have to go back to the business plan and update it. Because the next time you go to a bank to ask for a loan, they're going to ask you for the most current business position, and the most current business plan will highlight it to them. So quite a useful document. Now let's see what are the contents of it and how is it defining each function's role for the business.
Quick pause. If you're finding value in this explanation, there's so much more to discover. At Alt Academy, we break down every A level concept with the same level of clarity. Now, let's continue.
So as you can see here that a business plan contains literally everything that the business is thinking of when they're starting up, even when they're thinking of expansion a few years down the line. So they have to have some foresight into how they're going to go about it and what are largely going to be the strategies that they're going to follow. Additionally, it will also contain how the company is being financed. Is it through investors? Is it through bank loans? It is through the entrepreneur's own money. So the financial structure will also be present there. You will also have a section here which will do some competitor analysis. So what kind of products are already out there that are similar to yours? And if yours is unique, how is that becoming that main defining point for your company? The marketing aspect as to how you're going to approach the customers, what sort of pricing levels, so that strategy, that function is also defined. The long-term and short-term goals of a business. Of course, in the short term, they're going to look for survival, but they want to get out of it very quickly. So how is that going to transpire over the next few years? That should be in the business plan. The composition of the teams, from the directors to the CEO and the main people in the main functions or the main departments of business, the hierarchy is also defined within the business plan. The operational side, which is all about the production process, what is the raw material that we're going to be using, what is the type of production process, and what is going to be the finished good, all of that is defined under the operations section. And of course, nothing is for an indefinite period. There must be timelines. So for all of these functions, and of course, the goals that are to be achieved, there are defined timelines as to what will happen or where should the business be in 1 year's time, in 3 years' time, or in 5 years' time. So, as you can see, these are all things that an entrepreneur should think before going out and starting a business venture. And whatever he or she was thinking, that whole vision is then translated into a written document known as the business plan. Now, yeah, it's quite useful if we've seen, but let's evaluate it. Let's see what benefits it really brings to a business, and does it have any limitations? Let's take a look. So the first benefit that a well-written business plan would bring to a business is that for any future employees joining the company, they don't have to start from scratch as to what is their role in the business. Everything about where a new employee would be brought in, what their role will exactly be in the business, will be defined in the business plan. So it defines activities in all departments, and then everybody in the organization knows exactly where they sit and what their role or their contribution is going to be for the business. Secondly, it's a useful tool to assess the risk associated with any business venture. Of course, you want to calculate the financial side of it. You want to see the marketability of it. You want to see if it makes sense operationally or not. So, looking at all those aspects give you an idea as to what kind of risk are you taking. And again, a high risk, low risk strategy will depend upon the risk or appetite of the entrepreneur. And finally, as we discussed a little bit earlier, that you could keep going back to your business plan, making sure that everything's going according to it. And if something's going wrong, you make comparisons with it and try to fix the problem there and then. So we can see that it has a lot of benefits. It's really a playbook for the entrepreneur. It's all the plays, all the strategies that they're going to employ in the coming months or in the coming years. But the problem or the limitations, I should say, of a business plan is that at the end of the day, a plan is just a plan. It takes execution, it takes dedication, it takes motivation, and all the members of the organization to fully understand their roles for the business to be truly successful. So don't just put it down on a piece of paper and put it away. Make sure you're referring back to it and following it constantly. And lastly, something that's beyond any business's control, and a topic that we've recently discussed, is the dynamic external environment. You plan one thing, but something else transpires, and then you have to rethink your strategies. The COVID-19 pandemic is a prime example of that. So, we can see there are limitations, but these are limitations that are not so heavy when you look at all the benefits that it brings. It clarifies things for the entire organizations, for the entire workforce, and it gives you a sort of a target to work with and a support structure that there's a playbook that we can always refer back to. And if we follow that, it should be a successful business.
Now that that's taken care of, head on over to altacademy.org to watch the rest of our A-Levels business videos. Over 60,000 students have already taken the leap. What are you waiting for?